Organizations are always looking for write-offs at the end of the year. It's better to give to something that we believe in than it is to hand it over to the government and Lord knows where it ends up at, right?
Yeah.
So why not plug in your resources, your funds into an organization that you believe in? This is a prime example of how you can do that, right?
Absolutely. On your podcast, Courageous Stewards, that's what we want to do. We want to steward the resources of God really well.
Welcome to Courageous Stewards, the podcast where legacy meets leadership.
We believe stewardship isn't just about managing resources. It's about multiplying impact, honoring purpose, and building with eternity in mind. Each week, we dive into business-focused discussions on real estate investing on a foundation of faith and family.
We have a desire to inspire listeners with a heart to reclaim their time, talents, and treasures for something greater. Whether you're growing your portfolio, leading a business, or a family, we need to become the best version of ourselves.
This is your space to gain wisdom, walk in courage, and steward what matters most.
Let's build what lasts. Let's lead with love.
Let's become Courageous Stewards.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Courageous Stewards podcast. This is a special one. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jake.
We've got some great guests on here. This one's personal for me. I remember when I first started my portfolio on day one, before we had even bought our first property, we were always about impact and stewardship even before we got started. And I had met with Phil and LifeWise Academy and went ahead and partnered up with them early on to be able to give to make an impact in the community. And so our guests today are Phil and Seth with LifeWise Academy. And we're just thankful to have them here. We're excited to have them. And we've got a lot of exciting things to talk about and share from LifeWise Academy. But before we get started, Phil and Seth, why don't you introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about who you were before you even got into LifeWise Academy.
Sure. I'm Phil Nofziger, and I had been the program director for LifeWise Academy for the last 7 years for Ayersville and Defiance. But prior to that, in my life that I was part of, I spent 37 years in public education. I was a math teacher at Napoleon High School for 8 years. And then at age 30, I transitioned to the principalship and became a high school principal. First at Stryker for 5 years over in Williams County, and then brought the family to Defiance, and I became the assistant high school principal at Defiance High School for 5 years, and then transitioned to Tenora for the next 16 years as the 9 through 12 principal. So retired 1 year and was out of education and got a call, and I ended up spending 3 more years as a grade 7 to 12 principal at Wayne Trace Junior Senior High School. So that's what adds up to my 37 years in public education. And my wife Robin and I have 3 adult children who have families now that with their spouses. And so yeah, we've been around a few years.
How long have you and Robin been married?
We just had our 46th anniversary.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's
Yes.
something to be proud of.
What's the secret?
Secret, I have a wonderful wife.
Good answer.
A patient wife.
All right, now we're going to have the real answer, and we're going to cut this part out.
No, that's, again, it's give and take. And, you know, I tell you one thing about raising children and what it was, we kind of had to tag team because I remember those years when one of us was upset, you know, with the kids, the other one balanced us out. And it was truly, sometimes she was upset and I cooled off, and sometimes I was upset. And she just soothed it out. And so, it truly is a team effort on our part. And again, she's to be able to put up with me for 46 years. She's special.
That's incredible.
That's awesome.
I wish we had all day to talk about that story because it's not common in our society in America to have a family that's able to fight through the difficult situations and come out on the other side and be able to have a testimony that is, I'm 46 or whatever years into this and we're still going.
Yeah.
We're not giving up.
Well, Phil didn't say anything bad happened in the marriage.
No.
It was all good. It was all bliss and joy and happiness, right, Phil?
Right.
I mean, it never got hard, did it?
Right.
So Seth, you're somewhat younger. You are married with a family and so forth. So I'd love to hear what what your background is.
Yeah. So some of my background is, before coming to Defiance, coming over to this area, went to Bible college over in Indiana. That's where I grew up. A lot of cornfields. But yeah, I grew up in Indiana, went to Bible college for 4 years, training for the ministry. That was kind of what I was doing. And then I got my master's as a youth pastor over actually in Napoleon. And then from there, it wasn't till 2022. Well, actually before that, I heard about LifeWise all the way back in 2018 when it started. Had a connection. My in-laws, and we'll go into this a little bit later, they had this back in their property, an old basketball court. And I remember my father-in-law, who at the time wasn't my father-in-law, but now is, but he was talking to me. He's like, there's this thing called LifeWise. They want to start it. They want to do it. And I thought, man, that's such a cool thing. And as I was going, I didn't even think about where God was going to lead me one day. So I finished Bible college. Long story short, now in this director role with Phil, God brought 8 years later a story together just from my father-in-law talking about LifeWise. God brought me to Defiance and Ayersville 7 years later. For that, though, a little all over the place, but I was a youth pastor for 4 years in Napoleon, and then also a middle school LifeWise teacher for 2 years. And through that time, kind of the heart behind everything, I saw God bring students from LifeWise to our youth group who ultimately changed their life with Jesus. And I was able to baptize several LifeWise kids that came to our youth group, and it was amazing. And so God just has always filled my heart with a passion to reach the next generation, to bring the gospel. And like you said, Jake, I met my wife in college.
In Indiana?
In Indiana.
Okay.
Yep. So Marion, Indiana, where we went, Indiana Wesleyan. And we actually about 2 months ago celebrated our 5-year anniversary. So praise God. I know we're on the little early side of things, not 46 years, but 5 years. She's an incredible wife, and we've got 2 children, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, boy and a girl. It's been a lot of fun. We're pretty busy, but yeah, that's kind of our backstory. Just in the youth ministry world and having a part of LifeWise over the last few years. And so God has done some really cool things through it.
What do you love most about your wife?
What do I love most about my wife? She's so intentional.
Okay.
That is my favorite thing about her. So intentional about everything. Of course, she's beautiful, but she's so intentional with her relationships, with the people she loves, with our relationship. And so, yeah, every day I feel very loved, feel very blessed to have her. So,
what are your kids' names?
Atticus and Rosalind.
Atticus and Rosalind. And what's your favorite thing about each of them?
Man, they just have so much joy, so much energy. Yeah. Sometimes to talk about Atticus, he can be a little bit of a Sour Patch Kid, but boy, he is so joyful.
He's the older?
Older one.
Okay.
And Rosalind, we call her Rosie. She's just a little bit spunky, little wild, but a little goofy, a little fun. So yeah, they're both really great. And even in Atticus being 3 years old right now, man, everything about what he's taking in, kind of what we're telling him every night before we go to bed, when we put him down, he says, Dad, I want to pray for this, and these people. And he said, hey, every single night, Dad, can we pray? Dad, can we do John 3:16? He now knows that verse. He can pretty much do the whole thing on his own. But he's like, hey, can we do John 3:16? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish. And he really emphasizes, shall not perish, but have eternal life. And so it's really cool to see what God is even doing in him. And just, even in those moments of life where you're like, oh, this is really tough. This is a long day. This is, what are we going to do? Then you see those moments where he recites John 3:16. He's praying. He wants to pray. And so it's like, it's worth it. Every moment is worth it. And so very thankful, very blessed.
I think you'll see that impact long after they grow up and move on. I remember even to this day, my mom and dad going over scripture with us, having us memorize things. And I still recall those same scriptures and even times in my childhood where we were reciting scripture, as a kid with my mom or dad, through the years and stuff. So I think it's powerful and valuable. You'll see it long after they leave your home and have families of their own.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So cool.
So I want to talk about LifeWise Academy and kind of the backstory of it. That's really why we're here. Sean and I are both supporters of LifeWise. We're both involved. We've been in the classrooms. I now sit on the board. We just want to kind of give our listeners kind of the backstory of what LifeWise was and then where it is now and kind of where it's going. So can you guys tell us a little bit, either or, maybe Phil, you would know a little bit more of the backstory of LifeWise, how it started and that sort of thing?
Yes, I sure can, because I guess I've been in it probably as long as anyone around this area. And I think it was in the fall of 18. This is kind of the beginning of the story. One of our now board members, Jess Guerin, is a fellow churchmate of mine who found out and saw a video that Van Wert's Release Time Religious Instruction program had put out. And it was just a 3-minute video of they had started a release time program probably about 5 years prior to this. And now at this point, they were starting to promote it because I think they really did have a vision of a question that one of the gentlemen in the community had pondered. What would America look like if every school community in the United States had a release time program? And from that video, just knew Robin and I well enough because we have our what's called gospel life groups in our church. That's our small group in our church, and they had been part of that, she and her husband Casey, for the whole time that we have been attending King's Cross. And so she had Robin watch it. And after those 3 minutes, Robin said, I'll probably get emotional here, but she goes, wait, if they're doing this in Van Wert, why can't we do this in Defiance? Mm-hmm. First words out of her mouth. And from that point, we ended up, Jess and Sam Andrews, our pastor, and Robin and I went to a meeting in St. Mary's, Ohio, that Joel Penton was heading up and had asked for people to come. And we went, and he explained to us what release time religious instruction was. And to be very honest, here in Northwest Ohio, I believe there was just this curtain over this area because we truly up in the corner of the state hadn't really heard about it. There might be individuals that had, but as a whole, almost no one understood it. Mm. And release time, for those that may not know that, it is a legal avenue to take children off school grounds, teach the Bible, in our case, okay? Let kids know who Jesus is. All right, and then, and again, completely illegal, and the key, it's during school time, okay? Now, the school has to be flexible enough, obviously, to figure out how kids could be released, and here at Ayersville and Defiance, which we oversee, they have been wonderful as far as figuring that out without the kids missing any academic time. I mean, that's right. one of the things that maybe some people don't understand, that the kids are not missing academic time when they come to LifeWise. Mm-hmm. That's part of really the law that's in place. But the bottom line is, we went to that back in 2018, and then we come back and started talking about it and thinking, okay, Joel would love to see someone possibly get this off the ground. Joel had been a speaker in schools on character education, and he became a Christian in high school, and he loved to share the gospel. So he would go back to either the school or a local church when he would present for the character assemblies that he did for mostly junior and senior high schools. He ended up hearing, because Van Wert is his hometown, He heard about what his hometown was doing with this release time program, and he was kind of charged with this whole idea of, you've been in schools. What would it look like if every school community had one of these? And so he took it and he started investigating, and he found out really there was quite a few release time programs across the country, but there wasn't anything that was uniform. Everybody just did their own thing. Maybe a local church across the street, which happened quite often. Kids would walk to that local church across the street from the school. And that's what release time looked like. And what he did is he basically helped put together a replicable program, repeatable, all right, so to speak. And then in the winter of 19, there was a group of pastors here in Defiance that Pastor Sam had put together and asked me to go to it. And we talked about what release time was. Honestly, I think the pastors got really excited. And lo and behold, they thought maybe I should do this since my background was in education. And that's the one thing that I thought, as I was thinking and pondering and praying about this, that God could use me because I understood administrators. Spending 29 years as a principal, I know how administrators think. And red flags that would go up when they hear that we'd like to take your kids off school ground and teach them the Bible. I get it, because I would have had the same red flags that would have gone up. So I think, and I know God had this thing scripted out long before we did. Right. And, that background that I had in education, I think, was at least good to get things started here in Northwest Ohio. And here Ayersville, as Seth had mentioned, there was this wonderful couple that lived just north of the playground that had this basketball court that I will mention, since Seth brought up John 3:16, in the corner in the cement, it says John 3:16, okay? And no surprise in that. So he said yes, because we were looking for a play. Okay, so we went to the school then in the wintertime, and we thought if we could hopefully get a couple grades to get this started. And next thing I know, they said, well, you can have grades 1 through 6. So we had kids coming to LifeWise back in that winter that was going to start for next school year in the fall. We had no place to do it, and so that's where this property that is just perfectly placed right outside the gate of the fence between the school and the property. And it just, again, God is so good. And so we started in the fall of 19. That was 7 years ago. COVID happened in that next spring, and so things got shut down. But we ended up with, I think it was 58% of the students at Ayersville in grades 1 through 6 that participated. So we felt like that, we got off to a good start, because we were told that at Van Wert, 95% of the kids in the elementary were attending their release time program. Mm-hmm. And that kind of blew me away when I first heard about that. And I saw that video, and I saw how enthusiastic the kids were answering questions, and I'm thinking now, is that all staged? Was that put on? I can now safely tell you that after seeing it in action, it's not staged. Kids are very enthusiastic about what's going on with LifeWise. So, but no, we started it. We shut down. I think God, again, in His infinite wisdom that He has, gave Joel Penton and a crew of people time to figure out how you could possibly talk with people, across the nation, so to speak, if this truly was going to be the goal of the program. And Zoom and all the things that have come out, in the last 10 years has really made this be able to happen, because we communicate oftentimes that way through the online type of communication rather than the face to face for the big picture. Mm-hmm. For the local program, I know that I was convinced there with COVID that I didn't want to do it unless we could do it face-to-face and have that personal touch. So that next school year, if you remember, here in Northwest Ohio, luckily, we were able to go to school. We wore masks, and we followed the same protocol as the schools because truly this is a partnership with the schools. They really don't have anything to do with it other than allowing and figuring out how some kids could leave the school grounds for a short period of time. Other than that, it's all our planning, but they obviously we have to partner together to make it happen. And that's why it was so good. Ayersville, the administration, were very good about figuring how that could be done. We wanted to start Defiance as soon as possible because of my wife's question, of why can't we do this in Defiance? And that next year, because of not knowing if we're going to be in school or not, we thought, let's wait. All right, let's wait. And it was very good to have that next year, and then finally the following year things loosened up, and we got Defiance started. And just to give you an idea, I had no idea how well it would work or not work, to be very honest. And I thought, if we got anywhere around 50%, because at Defiance, in grades 1 through 6, that's close to 1,000 kids. So I thought, wow, if we got 50%, that's 500. That'd be great. Okay. So just to give you an idea, when we started there, in that first 2 weeks, by the time we were up and rolling, we had 650 kids that were coming.
Roughly 65%?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And it was like, I was blown away. We still didn't have our big red bus that we take back and forth. So we had borrowed a van from Pandora, had started up a program, and they weren't getting going until September. So, and Defiance started in the middle of August as far as school, and we start day one and we end on the last day of school. And both the two schools we oversee. And so we borrowed a van. We had two vans, and then sometimes we had to take an extra car because we have 2 homerooms at a time, and that's really how kids come. They come a homeroom at a time to us, and then at Defiance we have 2 homerooms at a time, because they have usually about 8 homerooms per grade level. So it is quite a process. We do it at our local YMCA at Defiance, which is right off school grounds. And we take that bus from the elementary and go behind the junior senior high school to the local YMCA. They have partnered with us very, very well. We appreciate their partnership also. And by the end of that first year at Defiance, we had 800 kids that were participating. And since that time, we've had 800 plus kids that have come every year. I mean, we lose a class every year that move to the middle school, but we gain a kindergarten class because we cover grades kindergarten through 5th grade at Defiance. So that's 6th grade levels. And and both of you have seen a little bit of it as volunteers, which, yes, I'd love to tell people that just come and check what we're doing and contact us, Seth now being the program director. We'd love to show you what this looks like in action, because it's been great. So now both schools, we average 80% of the targeted population that could come. And I definitely should mention that there's 3 specific points that have to be followed to make this happen. One, to do this, it has to be off school grounds. That's one of them. Second one, very important, is parents have to give their permission. So this is definitely with parent permission. And then the third, it is totally privately funded. There is no tax money that can be used to make this happen. And that's why it's legal. And the Supreme Court of the United States put it into play almost 100 years ago. So it's been in existence that long. It's taken to this point where there happened to be a young man who had the vision that what would it look like if we could make this happen, and now it is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the backstory, and I know I've rambled a little bit, but I appreciate
No,
it.
it's
It's good.
neat.
It's good.
It's incredible to hear.
It shows like God's plan.
Yeah.
It isn't a thing of hurrying up or going faster. Like 37 years of your career led up to serious impact and purpose for God's kingdom, and it wasn't fast. The YMCA in our local community has been great for what it's doing for impact with God's community, because we had our church there. Our church used to be planted at the local YMCA. And so hearing them partner up with LifeWise makes a lot of sense. And then it's the parents giving permission to the kids. You know, some people may have the conception that this is just happening if the kids want to or not. But no, the parents are on board with it. That's huge.
Yep.
So that's why this is so impactful, is because the kids can be reached. Because a lot of times it isn't that a parent is necessarily a believer or not. They just may not attend. They're too busy. They're working. They may be okay with the kids going to a program like that, to share hope, to inspire children to have a relationship with Jesus. So you guys create that avenue. You have permissions from the parents, and you're reaching these kids, changing their lives, giving them new perspective on relationship, love, forgiveness, and just having relationship with God, because some of them don't have great home lives. So to have this avenue to explore with other kids and to share and to feel love and God's word is just incredible. It really is.
Absolutely. And just thinking, like what God is doing in the lives of these students. I know I'm going to go off a little bit, but just one of the stories, just thinking of LifeWise, of, watching what God did even this year at Defiance. I was in the classroom. One of our teachers was in there, and first grade class. This blew me away. One of the students walks in. He says, "I don't think Jesus loves me. I don't think he cares about me." And this other first grade student looks at this student and says, "Yes, he does. And there's two options that you've got. You can go to heaven, and heaven is full of joy and peace and full of the love of God. Or there's a place called hell where there's not so great things and you're not with God." And this student goes, first grader, just remember this. And he looks at the other student and he said, "Today you can trust and believe in Jesus and you can be with God forever." And I was like, what? A first grader?
Yeah.
So, like Phil's talking about the backstory, even moving through COVID, moving through all that, God had a plan, and he had a plan and a purpose, and he's raising up the next generation through all this, using even a first grader to encourage another one, right? You talk about kids walking in difficult situations, a kid thinking, man, I'm not loved. But this first grader says, yes, you are. And I get a little emotional about this, but after he said that, the entire class surrounded this first grade student. They embraced him, they hugged him, and said, "You are loved."
Yeah,
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine what that would have been like for me, and we might go into that, but like if LifeWise would have been around when I was in school,
it would look different today.
oh man,
It already would.
just the change,
Yeah.
even 7 years going into year 8 of really LifeWise being something, who knows what it's going to look like in 10, 15, 20, 30 years,
It's huge. You guys are the impact you're making. You guys are impacting where the impact needs to happen. We often want people, even friends, family. Like I want to get friends and family. Like you guys got to get this. Just come with me to church for a Sunday. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to commit. Just show up. But it's often really hard. We were mature. We're old. We have hardwired ways. We've struggled. We've lost some degree of hope. So for us as adults, it's harder to change a bunch of grown-ups into changing their beliefs and thought process. But if you can plant that seed in the young generation that's going to come up, these are the future leaders of the world, the nation, that are going to have this seed planted and instilled. And if they're supporting one another, like you shared with that first grade story, through their life, I mean, the impact they're going to have on others, and it's going to multiply. So just hearing the fact that LifeWise is pursuing the younger generation is where it has to start, because that's how you fix the problem. Because just like you said, if they had LifeWise 30 years ago, I think the world would look different. I know it would look different.
Well, and just to think, bringing it back, it all started in a small rural town in Northwest Ohio, first with Van Wert with a religious release time instruction, but small little Ayersville, Ohio as one of the pilot programs launching. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You think of this thing, oh yeah, it would have taken off in maybe a bigger city first, but no, the local people, the people of God, brought it together because they desired for the next generation to hear about Jesus.
That story that you told makes me think about how oftentimes ministers or people of faith will tell each other, you do it for the one. You may not know the impact that you're having, but you want to do it for the one. If you are able to impact one person, it's all worth it. Well, this is on a macro scale when you think about it. It has the potential to be massive. Would it be worth it if it was just that one child who was impacted in that one story that you just told? Absolutely. But it goes so much further than that. And it has so much room to still grow beyond what it's currently at.
Absolutely. And just for the one, that's the ministry that Jesus did.
Yeah.
Multiplication.
Yeah.
Yep.
And look where we are 2,000 years later. Billions of people have the gospel available, ready to hear. And so with LifeWise, we get to make an impact during the school day, like Phil said. Again, off-school property, privately funded, parent permission.
Yep.
Nobody's getting forced to do it, but we're opening an avenue for, if you want the hope of the gospel and want some Bible education, we're going to give you the hope, who is Jesus. And so what an impact that, we get to have, especially you guys know, the world around us, it's tough to live in, but there's hope, and it's in Jesus. And even in the craziness of schedules, we get to do it during school hours. I think of myself, I think of even as a youth pastor, where I would hear students that would be like, yeah, I've got sports Monday through Sunday, every single day of the week. Those students, they want to get to youth group. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, sure.
And so being able to create almost a bridge between the church, we get to do that. And ultimately, we know greater, deeper discipleship happens at the church scale. And so we're partnering as well with the church on that. Yes. And so that's absolutely important to what we're doing. We bring the gospel, we can plant the seeds, but we know the church partners with us and is responsible for discipling the next generation at a much deeper level. And so we're also thankful for our church partnerships and those who help us with that.
Yeah, for sure. That brings us into another great question, which is, where is LifeWise at now? And we don't want to just talk in our small community, but what's the impact being made nationwide right now?
Well, as I mentioned, that was the vision of across the nation, what would it look like? And a little bit of the story behind that, Joel Penton and the group that had started this, their first goal was 25 schools by the year of 2025, 25 and 25. That was a pretty realistic goal. And by the year 2000 or 2001, all of a sudden, they had 36 different school buildings that were housing LifeWises. So that vision just changed immensely. And he started getting partnerships with people for the big picture of what LifeWise would look like. And every local LifeWise has to basically focus on their school community and being able to fund that. And he kind of fund the big picture. But now, as we start the 2026-27 school year, we just found out in our conference where we are over 1,000 different school buildings, LifeWise, in 34 of the 50 states. So it's closer. Still not total, because there's plenty yet to reach, but it's amazing how God has used this as a tool to get his word to children and to young people, because some schools are doing it in the elementary, some do it in the elementary and the junior high and even the high school now. So that's been kind of our progression. That just this past year we started doing the middle school at Ayersville for the first time. We wanted to make sure things were going well and done I think in a very professional and also a loving way. And Ayersville, they were the community gave us the idea that they would really like to see it at the junior high level. So we did that last year, and the local Ayersville Community Church has partnered with us. So we actually bused the 5th and 6th graders over to that building because we ran out of room and time with the modular, we couldn't house everybody. So that's another partnership that we now have to be able to do this. And it's just, it's been, I could tell you story after story, but it has been truly a God thing. I feel that way. One of the things that I do want to mention, I think people that might see this and still are skeptical, why would the public schools, even allow, the one thing that LifeWise does that was different than any other release time program, we add a character element to every lesson. And we teach every time the kids come into LifeWise. So it's not just a fun and games. We're certainly going to do things that kids enjoy, but we do a Bible lesson, a memory verse. Seth, what else happens during that short, probably 35 to 40 minutes that we have kids once a week?
Yeah. We engage students first with, scripture. We try to go back and rehash what the previous lesson was. But like Phil said, there's a LifeWise quality in every one of these Bible stories we teach. So what a normal, day looks like is, students come in, you might do an activity to engage them. Then you've got a Bible verse. Then you're working through last week's story. Hey, what do we remember from last week? What did we learn? Then we jump into the Bible story. And from there, every single story, this is what I love about LifeWise and the curriculum we do, is every single story has a Jesus connection. Every ounce of the Bible points back to Jesus. And so we make that absolutely vital in every one of our lessons, or one of the weeks that kids come in, is that they know it's connected to Jesus. And finally, a LifeWise quality. Okay, you've heard it from the Bible. There's this Jesus connection, but how do you engage it in your everyday with other people? How is this going to shape your character? How is this going to shape the way that you think, the way that you act, and the way that you speak? And so that's ultimately our hope. And so we kind of partner, like Phil said, with character education. And we believe that we can do that through the teaching of Scripture and what Jesus can do through the power of the Spirit. So that's kind of what every week looks like. And you guys, being in the classroom, you saw that. And so countless cool things that happen throughout our LifeWise days. And so, that's what a normal day looks like. But
knowing what the inner workings of a school looks like, and the schools, we have been charged to teach character education for quite a few years now, and knowing also that all of a sudden we expect all kids to be able to learn at a certain testing level. Our teachers have really been burdened by the fact that not only are they trying to worry about making sure the kids are ready for tests, but still we have to teach character education. So that's why when I talk about partnership with our local schools, we feel that we, at least, they'll still do whatever they can do with that element, but we also feel like we can play a huge role in helping with that, what they have been charged with. And again, and Seth also mentioned then the partnership with LifeWise and the churches. One of the things that I think I have been most pleased with is knowing that the churches have been able to unite together. Long time, I think we all know this, that we put up some walls between different denominations because we have a little bit different doctrine, okay? But the one thing that we definitely have is the big picture, all right, is Jesus, all right, and what he did for each one of us individually. And when you forget a little bit about the different doctrinal things that we have, and again, every church, I understand it and I support what they might be doing, but the bottom line is this is truly about Jesus Christ and what he did on the cross. And in saving each of us from our sins, and then rising again, and to let us know that if we believe in him, that we will have everlasting life.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And I want to add one more thing to this, just the kind of give people a little bit more background, which we've kind of spoken to a little bit already. But, while there's a headquarters for LifeWise and things happen and things go on, the cool thing about every single program is that it's local and it's done by local people, the local church, the local school, and it's raised up by local people. It's not, you look at business models and a lot of those are run corporately. Mm-hmm. This is done all by the local people coming together. And the cool thing that Phil said with churches is, yeah, we might all have different denominational differences, different doctrines, but everybody gets to come together and unite around Jesus Christ. And that's the cool thing that we've seen with LifeWise is no matter where your church stands on this thing or this issue or this, everybody's united around the fact that we want these students to hear about Jesus Christ. And so that's been the cool uniting and unifying thing about LifeWise. Regardless of where you come from, we are united around the person of Jesus. And so that's the other really, really cool thing that I love about LifeWise. And people God raises them up, and he raises them up within the community, within the church. And so that's been a really cool thing for me to watch as well.
So here recently, Phil is now passing the torch on to you, Seth. Is that correct? As of this year?
Yes.
Okay. So Seth, then I guess this question probably pertains more to you, and that is, what's the direction of the local LifeWise community and program? What's the plan? Where's it going?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Phil, I just want to say he's going to stay on our board, which is awesome. I think he's done amazing, faithful work and great resource, great mentor. And so I'm thankful for him and Rob and what they've done. And so they'll be an instrumental part of what we do. But going forward, so Phil talked about it, 1st through 8th grade at Ayersville is where we're at currently, K through 5 at Defiance. Our goal is that every public school student has the availability to hear the gospel, to even have the avenue of LifeWise available to them over the next couple of years.
Now we're talking K through 12?
K through 12,
okay.
Both Defiance, both Ayersville.
Got it.
That's the goal. That's what we're aiming for, is that every one of those public school students can get the gospel, that it's at least available. Again, we said this is parent permission, so you're welcome to come. If you're not going to come, that's okay too. Mm-hmm. But we want it to be available to everybody. That's ultimately the goal. And we know that's going to take different things, more resources, more funding, more volunteers, more staff. But, from what God has done at this point, this is God's story, right?
Yeah.
Not ours. We believe he can raise it up. Of course, we got to take, practical steps towards it. But we trust in God ultimately through this process. We know he's going to raise it up. And so what that looks like, practically, I'll say right now, just to give you a glimpse of that, one of the things that we're going to try to do this year with Ayersville is to potentially start up high school. That's one of the things that we've been working on actually right now. What that might look like, when it'll start, we'll have to see. But we've been working through some of those details with the administration. And so that's something we really want to see. We even believe that the students share the same vision. And so, we want to know where they're at. And if they're I remember last year, many of the 8th graders are like, hey, Seth, we got to keep this thing going into high school. And so we see students are bought in. And so let's keep going. Let's keep doing it. And so that's the really cool thing is, we wanted to plan to do that, but students are already saying to us, hey, let's keep going. Let's keep this thing rolling. Let's keep doing LifeWise. And so part of the goal this year is to, slowly get into the high school, see what that looks like. And I think it's very possible. So, and we have a plan, if that happens. So that's where we're headed. I'm excited because as a youth pastor and really overseeing just the next generation, my heart is that every student gets the gospel. So we're going to make that happen one way or another. We're going to make it available. And we're going to pray and pray and pray. That's the most important thing that we can do. Prayer is what drives this thing. And we know that God drives it. And he's using us too. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. That's great. That's a lot of good information. And it's prayer for sure, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. But in regards to like tangible things and ways people can help, you've got a pretty big vision for where LifeWise is headed, and I know God's going to see it through. But for individuals and businesses, what can the community be doing to help this vision come to reality?
Absolutely. I think ultimately you bring it back. Prayer is definitely the first. But one of the ways that if we're going to keep expanding, we're going to need more teachers. We're going to need, some more staffing. And so some of that, on the business side of things requires funding. And so one of the things that we invite businesses into and others, individuals, churches, is to become a donor, or what we like to say with LifeWise is an owner in the ministry, being a part of driving it forward. And so, we're always going to need more funds. One of the things that we're trying to do as we look ahead to is get more sustainable funding. First of all, I want to say thank you for any of them that are listening. So all of our donors, you all are what makes this happen. Yeah. We couldn't do it without you guys. And so that's our churches, that's our individual donors, whether it's $20 a month or for larger donors giving very big gifts, $10,000 and more. Thank you. We really couldn't do it without you. And so we invite businesses, whether it's something small, recurring over time, or whether it's a big, generous gift, wherever God is leading you in that, we consider you to partner with us. And so that's what it's going to take. We're just going to need more resources if we're going to go forward. And I don't know if I said this, but some of the vision too, if it's possible, which we know we serve a God who makes all things possible, would be maybe even a building offsite. We're very thankful for the Modular, for the YMCA, for the Ayersville Community Church for giving their space. But I'm just thinking out loud, thinking in advance, especially, maybe in the Defiance area, possibly down the road. Could there be a building built so we could reach every public school student? Logistically, we're going to have to eventually find somewhere else if we're going to reach 6th through 12th graders. We're going to need more space. And so what that looks like, not totally sure, but a building certainly is not off what we're thinking, what we're considering. And not a building just for students to be housed in, but maybe it's even used for trainings by other programs in the local area. So that's something we're also considering. So yeah, whatever that looks like, we're just going to need more funding, more prayer. And one thing I don't want to forget, if you're like, we can't fund, we can't do that, we're not at the capacity to do that right now, we're always going to need more volunteers. Mm-hmm. And as you guys know, being in the classroom, it's so important, the job you do, just getting to know students, getting to be in the classroom and seeing what happens. We need more. And we know that God's going to raise more people up.
Yeah, that's incredible. I just recently had a conversation with a gentleman who everyone here at this table knows, but I met him for dinner a couple weeks ago, and we got talking about giving, just having the heart of a giver, being a giver, and how sometimes we need to give until it hurts. And very quickly it doesn't hurt anymore. At the beginning of the giving process, it feels very painful, right? You're giving something that maybe you don't really have necessarily, or giving out of abundance. Sometimes we have a tendency to kind of hold things close.
Absolutely.
And so it's painful to have the heart of a giver, but then you find out very quickly when you become a giver, it brings an incredible amount of joy, far beyond the concern that you thought you were going to have by not having the thing that you gave up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we had this conversation very recently. And so I would encourage people that listen to our podcast, and we have thousands every episode that listen. I think we have hit well over 500,000 listens on the platforms and the shorts and all the things that we've put out. So we do have a pretty significant audience and people who are looking for things to believe in, things to be a part of. This is a great opportunity for you to plug yourselves in. And if you don't have the time to, because you're in a W-2 job, we know things are expensive these days, and a lot of homes have both parents working full-time jobs, and time is just not really available, but funds maybe.
Absolutely.
And so I would just encourage people as a call to action. Now, this is a 501c3, correct?
Correct.
Which means that it's a nonprofit organization, and donations that are made can be written off on your taxes. So for bigger organizations, that's huge, right? Organizations are always looking for write-offs at the end of the year. It's better to give to something that we believe in than it is to hand it over to the government and Lord knows where it ends up at, right?
Yeah.
So why not plug in your resources, your funds into an organization that you believe in? This is a prime example of how you can do that, right?
Absolutely. On your podcast, Courageous Stewards, that's what we want to do. We want to steward the resources of God really well. And again, knowing where your donation goes to, of course, funding our staff, funding the buildings we're in, and really the main thing of what we're doing, reaching the next generation. The thing is, you have to ask yourself, what's the cost if I don't do this?
Yeah.
If I don't give, there's a cost, right? Students missing out on hearing the gospel. And so my challenge, my ask to you is, if you are in position, you feel like I can give, I feel like I can give, do it. Please do. We want to steward that well. And your money, like Jake said, it has places that it goes. And so it's not just, all right, we'll take your money and we'll see what happens. We have plans, we have purposes for it, and we're going to steward it well for God's kingdom.
And then on the other side of this, I've just recently had conversations with some younger folks who are wanting to plug themselves into something in the community, but they just don't know what to. Maybe they're young, they're not as well connected as folks who maybe have been in the community for a while and know the different organizations that are available. I just had a conversation with a young lady that wants to get plugged into LifeWise, and I gave one of the teachers yesterday her information to reach out to, but she just did not know. And so that's another opportunity. If you're a stay-at-home mom and you have some available time, or you're a young person and you're looking for a way to just plug yourself into the community for a day or two a week where you can have some significant impact. Maybe you don't have the funds to do anything on the financial side, but you have some time available. These kids need you. Period.
Absolutely. And, Jake, with that opportunity to volunteer at Ayersville, we ask that you give an hour of your time. That's how we allocate that time. At Defiance, it's an hour and a half of your time. And so if you think you could do that one day a week, that's all we're asking. We're not asking for you to give a full day or a couple days. If you can give an hour and a half once a week, that's it. And we really strongly encourage you. Again.
And if maybe the exact time every week wouldn't work, if you have a schedule that you might have some flexibility, we can use substitutes too. So oftentimes, and understanding that if you volunteer, if you have a doctor's appointment, if you're going on vacation, a lot of our volunteers are senior citizens, which is perfect, all right, but yet they like to go in the wintertime, and we get that, but we're able to plug in, and we just need more. That's all. That's who we want. Like you two young gentlemen that volunteered here the past year or two, can't be so thankful, because these kids love to see young men. All right, I'm not every lady and every woman that volunteers we love, and
so
we're so grateful for, but some of these kids are starving to see men in their lives.
Yeah.
And so I see it, okay? I see how important it is. So maybe a business would be able to allow, an employee to give an hour and a half a week. That would be real special for us, and it's also a way to contribute to the well-being of the community. So, and I also want to bring out that if, people that would be listening, they say, well, I live in who knows where, and, but start checking in. Number one, if they don't have a LifeWise, the LifeWise has developed a way. Look up lifewise.org. Look to see if your school community has a LifeWise. If they don't, you could sign a something that says, we think this would be a good thing for our school district. That's one way to start the process. And if they are doing it, you can contribute to your own local one if that's the preference. Obviously, we're vying here for Ayersville and Defiance, but I think it's well worth noting that after 7 years, this fall, all right. We often, if we live up here in the corner, we talk about the 4-county area, which is Williams, Defiance, Fulton, and Henry counties. And come this fall, our last school in that 4-county area is going to be starting a LifeWise, and that means every school district in the 4 counties will have a LifeWise available. Paulding County, all their schools have it available already too. So our Northwest Ohio really has become pretty well saturated in the opportunity. So if you live up in this area, more than likely it has started. In if you can contribute any way, we would love to see that happen, because as much as I see it and I value what I think the difference this can make for not only kids, all right, because that's obviously our number one, but I think this can definitely be a huge factor for our schools, all right, and then also our communities. And if you're in it for the long haul, like we have been, it's 20 years down the road is where we hope to see that big difference made. So as much as we love to see those individual days, and that's kind of what you do as a program director, you see it on a daily basis, but I love to think about future.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we would love to see it in all 50 states,
Yeah.
in the greater scheme of it all. 50 states across every public school.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
We have 88 counties in Ohio. Do you have any idea how many counties we're in? I know that's a random question, and right off the cuff, it might not be easy, but I'm just curious.
The thing that I have been really amazed about too is in my mind, because I'm a rural community type person. I mean, I saw this working probably in the rural. I didn't know how it would work in the urban and the suburban areas. But I'll be honest, we're in cities, we're in metropolitan areas around cities, and we're in the country too. Probably right now it's still mostly that country, but yet it's happening across. I can't tell you exactly how many counties, but I will say safely most of the counties, because Ohio, obviously, because of the head, Joel is from here in Ohio and based down in Hilliard, and so Ohio is the most, but it is spreading. I mean, Indiana, Indiana has really taken off. The great thing, there's a group of people from Ayersville that had a friend down in Kentucky who she heard about it through them. She came up and she observed, and she was so excited. She went down to Kentucky. She's got it going, and in her county now, it's I think almost in every school in that county in Kentucky. I mean, it really does. If you see it in action, it's when you really can get excited about it. I mean, we can talk, but we invite you and just to observe. Would love to have you. So please contact one of us, Seth or myself, or any board member, and we'll get somebody set up just to see what it looks like in action. Because I think again, it's easy to say, oh, what's going on, but it's a good thing, and we're not doing anything that's going to hurt or harm children. We're doing things that we believe that will have a lasting impression on them. And So,
Yeah, and as I'm thinking about that, if you're interested in the program, if you're a business owner and you want to grab a coffee, definitely reach out to me. And if you're interested at all in the program, I'll get my email real quick, Seth Rogers at LifeWise.org. ROGERS. No D in the, not it like Aaron Rodgers. So Seth Rogers at LifeWise.org. If you're interested in the program, you want to take a look at the program, you want to volunteer, you want to sit down for coffee, would love to connect with you that way. So let me know. And again, Phil, too, if you want to connect with him as well. We're more than happy to get to know you. And part of the other side of this vision is we just want to be connected in the community and be people we believe the community can trust. And so we want to build trust with others and businesses and churches, and we believe we're doing that.
From the aspect of giving to the organization, what's the best avenue to do that?
Yeah. I would say online, so you can go to lifewise.org and you can find either Ayersville or Defiance, one of those local programs. And when you click on that, it'll take you to the program site. And through that, you'll be able to give. It says give online if you scroll down and drop it below. So giving online is probably the easiest way. Yeah. However, if you're not super tech savvy, you feel like you can't give online, write us a check. That would be the easiest way. We can do cash, but it's not preferable. It's a whole process. So If you're going to do it by check. That'll make it super easy for us to do. And so if you want to give by check, if you want to go to the website, whether it's Ayersville or Defiance, either one.
and I'll take it a step further. If you want to give to Defiance or Ayersville at a local level and you prefer the check method, it comes to me to my address, and then I record it, and then I send it on, and then they put it and take care of it for the, So again, when you give, all right, whether it's locally or else you go and you give online, you can designate, and it goes toward that local community, okay, so that people understand they're not just giving to the big picture. And you can do that too. That's available for you to do if you love the big picture of it, okay? But if you want to give it a local level, you're able to do that. But so I'm going to throw my address out there, whether people have time to scroll it down or not, or write it down. But 1209 Fallen Timbers Drive, Defiance, Ohio, 43512.
Okay. And just make that out to LifeWise?
LifeWise, yeah.
LifeWise.
Yeah. In the memo line, if you want to designate the school, Ayersville or Defiance, that's very helpful.
Okay.
And we would record it if you can include your email, just so that you know it's received, because you'll get a receipt from the organization. Again, especially if you're looking for tax deductible purposes, the email is vital, and you receive it. Mm-hmm. And again, this organization will send you that end of the year giving that you do, and so again, all tax deductible. So
now I know you guys are in a position where you have to talk about funding sometimes and things, but it's not always the most comfortable thing to do. Your heart is for the community, it's for the kids that you're impacting every day, and for the ministry. I, on the other hand, am a business owner, and it does not bother me a bit to talk about funding and financing. And so I want to encourage the listeners that we have. These are business owners. These are people who have money. Plug yourselves in. If you have time, get a hold of Seth, send him an email, see if you can get yourself involved, especially the men in our community, these boys and these kids that are being impacted. They really need positive male influence in their lives, and there's not enough of that, I would say. But also give, be a giver until it's painful. It very quickly becomes not so painful, but believe in the organization. We believe in what they're doing. We're encouraged by it. We love the trajectory and the direction that they're going. And that's why we wanted to have both of you on here to talk about what it is that you do, what the organization has done, how it's evolved, and where it's going. We are both very honored to be a part of it, looking forward to watching it grow. And again, thank you both for being on the podcast with us, telling your story, the story of LifeWise, and giving our listeners an opportunity to plug themselves into what y'all are doing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you so much, and most importantly, to God be the glory.
Absolutely.
Amen.
100%.
Amen.
So we're going to leave you with that. We're honored that you guys tune in and listen to us. Get yourself plugged into LifeWise and become a supporter of what it is that they're doing. And we will see you on the next one.
Thanks for joining us today on Courageous Stewards, where legacy meets leadership and faith fuels the journey.
If this episode stirred something in you, share it with someone who's ready to step boldly into their calling. Subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected as we continue to explore what it means to lead with conviction, serve with excellence, and build with eternity in mind.
So until next time, keep showing up, keep stewarding well, and remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's obedience in motion.